What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/TalesFromRetail. This story's called The Angry Lady and the Check, the First Attempt. This may end up being a saga of several stories, as honestly, I had no end of problems with this same lady over the course of a year. It ended rather spectacularly, but I don't want to spoil things. Okay, some background. At the time this story takes place, I was a young assistant manager of a clothing store, in training to take over the store from the existing manager who was moving on to another store that was set to open soon. During my training, it was made clear to me that we could only accept checks, paper checks, that should give you an idea when this took place, that were drawn on a bank located in our state. We were forbidden from accepting starter checks, checks where you had to write in the name and address, as well as checks drawn on banks that were out of state, even if that bank also had branches in our state. Now, the first two were down to simple fraud, as there was, at the time, a thing where people would deposit the minimum to open an account, get the starter or write-in checks, and go on a spending spree. It'd take 3 or 4 days for the fraud to be found out, and by then, the person was long gone. The last one, the out-of-state thing, though, well, that one was harder to explain. See, at the time, the state I was in had this law on the books that basically stated that if a person from out of state bounced a check, then that person would be charged with felony fraud charges, even if it was the first time or just a simple mistake. Furthermore, any employee who accepted an out-of-state check, regardless of how long they worked for the company, would be fired on the spot. So, on to the story. It's getting close to Christmas and business is booming. Even for our small store, it's apparent we're gonna make well above what had been projected we'd make in sales, based on past sales. I'm doing my thing in the men's department, working on selling a suit to a gentleman, when a call comes over the PA. Management to women's apparel for customer assistant. Okay, that's rare. Usually meant some customer was pissed at a cashier for something, but truth be known, that rarely happened. Usually the customer just came to track down any available manager. I pass my sale off to the clerk and head over in the direction of women's apparel. Dot, not her name, the women's department manager is standing at the register with this lady who I'll call Princess due to how she was acting. Dot says something to the lady, whose face is screwed up like she took a massive bite out of a salted lemon, and then heads my way. Mr. Fox, we have something of a problem here, Dot says. Gee, you think? I find myself thinking as Dot explains. The lady in question had been shopping for Christmas gifts for her family and had pulled together close to $2,000 worth of various kinds of clothing, shoes, and cologne or perfume items. What's more, she had asked to pay with a check. So you need me to verify it due to the amount? I asked. That was another weird little thing with the store. Checks over $200 had to have management verification or approval to be used. It was more a formality than anything, and we tended to just check ID, and then initial them before heading back to whatever we were doing. No. Well, yes, but no. There's a problem, Dot says and hands me the check. I glance down at it, see it's drawn on a Florida bank, and inhale sharply. I glance back at the lady, who's giving me looks that could kill, and back to Dot. So, what do we do? Dot asks. I shrug and tell her that I'll handle things, and approach the lady, who gives me one look of pure distaste before crossing her arms expectantly. Well? Princess asks, and then point. Is my money good enough for you? It takes everything in my body not to just say no and walk away. Well, there's a problem with the check, I say politely as I possibly can. What do you mean there's a problem? Princess practically yells. Well, I hate to say this, but we can't accept this form of payment from you. I start. I don't finish it though, as Princess yells, "Why the hell not?" She then starts interrupting me every time I try to explain, before I get a good bit exasperated with her and say, "Would you please listen for a moment? I'm trying to explain the issue to you. It's not just a company policy. This is based on a state law." She looks ready to start in on another rant, and I take that pause as she draws in a breath to quickly explain. State law says that if I accept this and it fails to go through, regardless if it's just a communication error, your banks close the day they call for payment, or God forbid, it bounces, then a felony warrant for interstate fraud would be taken out on you, and you will be arrested and charged. The penalty for that being a fine of about $50,000 and a minimum of 5 years in state prison. "Well, my money's good," she spits on me, figuratively, not literally. "Be that as it may, I can't accept this," I say, standing my ground. "Well, volleyball does," she retorts. "They're able to instantly draw from the bank account. We don't have that system here. It doesn't hurt that they have stores in your home state, and we do not. Do you have any other method of paying?" I ask again, through mildly clenched teeth, as she's getting on my nerves at this point. Princess just points at the check. "That's it, so I shall take it, or I'll take my business elsewhere." I'm done with her at this point and turn to Dot. "Go ahead and put that all in the back. We'll put it back on the shelves in the morning," I say and hand her the check back. From the shocked look on her face, it's apparent she didn't expect me to actually stand my ground. Dot proceeds to grab up the items, doing as I instructed, while I hand Princess her check back. She just stands there, looking like a fish out of water for a bit, and then heads outside. I figure she's leaving. I was wrong. Probably 20 minutes pass when in comes a couple of police officers. They head over to speak with Dot, who calls management back to her department. As I approach, I see that Princess is there, along with the officers. One of them approaches me and says that Princess had called them to report that I had stolen purchases she had made, taking them and putting them in the back after she had already paid for them. The officers wanted my side of the story, which I gave within earshot of Princess. She ended up shooting herself in the foot about halfway through the officer talking to me as I was explaining the problem to him by screaming, "Tell him that he has to take my check. I want my purchases." The officer promptly turns on her and asks her to repeat that, and she does. Before he says, "I thought you said you'd already bought them." She blinks, realizing her mistake, but the damage is done. The cops are simply done with her. They instruct her to leave, making it very clear that everything I had previously said about the check was true, if oversimplified. She, however, refuses to leave, doubling down on the idea that she would force us to take her check. At this point, it's close to closing. I've got work to do, and this lady is giving me a pounding headache. I want her out of the store, pure and simple. So I opt to use one more thing from my arsenal. I turn to the officer and say, "I don't want her in the store, and I don't want her ever coming back." The officer nods, understanding the wording here, and tells Princess in no uncertain terms that she's now trespassed from the store. And if she ever sets foot in it again, she can and will be arrested. Princess eventually does leave, and the saga of dealing with her ends for about 6 months. It was a nice, quiet time, right up to the point that her dour face once more darkened my store's doors. What is wrong with her? Why are people like that? They were literally only trying to save her from being legally troubled, because, it was obvious that she was already intellectually troubled. This story's called, "No, I Don't Need to See Your Bank Statement." Hello! This occurred just yesterday in the midst of reopening. I am the manager on duty in this situation. Cashier calls me over because she has an angry customer wanting to return a $60 item and have 2 items price adjusted because after reopening, we took large discounts on most of the store. Her purchase was from before our company shut down. I approached with the intention of just giving her the few bucks difference, but realized I was walking into a stranger situation. Immediately, lady starts saying a previous manager on duty had accused her of stealing in front of everyone and embarrassed her, and said she needed a receipt to take the items back. I know there is no way in hell my sweet peer would have accused anyone. I noticed she has a photo of a receipt on her phone. She had come back in with a photo to try a second time. I felt happy I could resolve the situation and get her out. But no, doesn't end there. The photo only included the part of the receipt that showed a charge to her credit card. No date, transaction info, store location, etc. It was missing all the info I would need to pull up the transaction on my POS. Also, our POS does not allow a return to a credit card without this information. The software literally doesn't allow it, and there is no way to override it. I explained to her that the info I need is missing and asked lady if she had the bottom of the receipt. She said she doesn't have the receipt anymore, just the picture. How did she suddenly get this picture that she didn't have last time? I let her know I would be happy to give her store credit for the item to return. She became more and more angry, saying that she had her bank statement and I need to put it on her account. I apologized and explained that our POS won't allow me to do that and there is no override. She demanded I call someone. I let her know that there is no one who can override it. I said I could attempt to look at my transactions for that day and see if I could pull it up for her, but our systems probably don't go back that far. As I leave to go do this, I hear my cashier ask if she doesn't mind stepping aside, because there is literally a line to the back of my huge store and only 3 cashiers. People can't wait to shop after being cooped up, but staff is afraid to return. Crazy busy. Lady refuses and says, "No, I will wait right here for her." That's when I started getting pissed at this lady. It's not everyone else's fault that you didn't keep your receipt. At this point, I actually believed that there was some fraud going on. Like she had already returned the items and just came in and found the item on the floor and was trying to return it again. Anyway, our systems did not go back that far. When I returned, she then demanded I call customer service right now for her because she has waited long enough. I let her know that they were closed, but I would try in the morning. She then tried to leave the item with me so I could figure it out and then do a credit to her account so she wouldn't need to come in again. I then explained we can't do remote refunds, the card needs to be physically inserted into our PIN pad. I dealt with her for almost 40 minutes with a huge line as we were closing. I even offered to let her cut the line next time. Just take your stupid store credit. Keep your receipts. Don't be so rude to hold up 150 other people. Don't accuse people of saying you stole. Don't call me a liar that I can't just refund to your account. Where the hell did you get this photo if you don't have the receipt? Also, I noticed she hadn't even brought in the item she wanted price adjusted, but I got so caught up in trying to get a receipt info, I didn't even address it. Why does every single Karen think that store policy's just magically gonna change when they don't get what they want? And if you're trying to scam a store, at least be smart about it. Don't waste people's time, come on. This story's called All Because I Asked for ID. So this happened yesterday. I work the tills at a DIY store in the UK, and there are a few items that our government has deemed dangerous for under 18s to purchase. Some are reasonable, like knives, axes, etc. But then there are a few you wouldn't think you'd need to be over 18 for. In the UK, we have a Challenge 25 rule. If the customer looks under 25, you have to ID them for certain items to make sure they are over 18. It's to ensure the customer is definitely over 18, and if you don't, the till operator selling the item could face jail time and fines. Not worth it. So this lovely gentleman comes to my till with some wallpaper and adhesive, the latter item being the Challenge 25 item, probably to stop kids from sniffing it. I don't know. So I scan the items and it pops up on my till to ask for ID. I look at the customer who looks young but not sure if 25 or not. So I ask for ID. Well, I might as well have told him I shot his dog or something. He just gradually gets angrier and angrier. He yells all sorts, "I'm 28! I'm just trying to do my house up! This is freaking stupid!" etc. He even calls someone and screams down the phone that he needs them to come buy the adhesive. I was amazed. I was looking at the other till operators like, what the fuck? And even the other customers were stunned. Really wasn't helping his cause to look like a reasonable adult when he's throwing his dummy out the pram and having a tantrum. He doesn't have his ID, so he buys his non-Challenge 25 items and storms off shouting, "Amazing." But wait, there's more! As he leaves, he throws his items and motorbike helmet to the floor outside and storms off to his moped. Again, not helping his cause. You only need to be 16 to ride one of them in the UK, and comes stomping back to the door. He comes raging in, and now he's gotten himself so enraged, he's pacing around threatening to hit something. Okay, buddy. He says he's got his license, which is a provisional, again only need to be 16 to have one, so I ask to see his ID to check the birth date. He continues to pace, saying he doesn't want me to serve him, so I pass the items to the girl, Heather, on the till behind me, and ask her to sell this gentleman this adhesive, please. Unfortunately, Heather was in the middle of a transaction with another customer, so he had to wait. Nope! He throws his ID on her desk and puts his card on the card reader for contactless payment. Never mind, she had rung up the other customer's items and he was trying to pay for them. And I still had the adhesive. So I raised my voice slightly and told him to wait at the side until Heather was ready. Once Heather had finished with her other customer, she checked his ID, slowly, sold the adhesive, and he was on his way, throwing a patty still leaving the store. Heather, myself, and the other checkout girl just looked at each other like, what if it just happened? All because I asked for ID, which he had in the first place. You may be 28, mate, but you still got a lot of growing up to do. As my dad always says, you don't have to be a cannibal to get fed up with people. Edit! Thank you everyone for the comments and upvotes. I just got back from another shift and got a polar opposite customer today. Guy comes in for some spray paint, another Challenge 25 item, and I ask for ID expecting the worst. He calmly says it's in his moped and goes to get it. Redeemed my faith in IDing customers. Okay, in my opinion, age-restricting items is so ridiculous. It's not gonna stop kids from huffing Sharpies, like, trust me. In fact, the only reason I was aware of Sharpie huffing was because I was not allowed to buy a Sharpie one time, and I was like, what? Why? Because, man, kids be huffing Sharpies. And from that day forward, you'd be hard-pressed to find me without black Sharpie marks in my nostrils. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.